Hey, welcome in, Buffs Nation. Another edition here of Shoulder to Shoulder, S2S Colorado Live. I'm your host, Manny, and as always, very excited to have you here. Again, shout out to our producer here that does all the backstage magic, magic behind the scenes, money. So again, makes us sound good, look good, feel good. All those good things. Please make sure to follow me on X at Manny_303 and Instagram at 303_Manny. As always, Buffline is always open for any comments or questions at 970-614-5771. And again, make sure you follow the Voice of College Football at the VOCFB. That's on X as well. And then we are on you can catch the Voice of College Football and Colorado one on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. And as well, at the bottom, you'll see if you can. Any contributions to the show will be much appreciated. And Venmo is at Manny S2S. So today's show, real quick too, thank you again for being with us. Without you, like I always say, we have no show. I do appreciate each and every single one of you. And again, you are very much appreciated. All right, let's jump into it. So today's show, what I'll say is we're going to move past Georgia Tech. That was a tough loss. And, Wednesday already, time to move past it as much as we want to continue talking about it. And again, it's gone at this point. So we're going to move on to Delaware, a game that Colorado should win, and win by a good chunk of points as well. So we're going to talk about the Ralphie report. We'll get into some recruiting updates. One that just dropped before about 20, 30 minutes. I didn't have time to do a ton of updates for that, but we will talk about that as well. It's a visit this weekend, and then we're going to have a one-on-one that Bryce Leslie of SSN Feathers and Field Goals joined me for. We due to time constraints, so we did have to pre-record it, but again, I'm going to bring it live here. Wasn't supposed to be that long, but him and I got talking back and forth for about an hour and 10 minutes. What I would like to do at the end of that, though, is answer questions, take questions, I should say, and just kind of get your guys' opinion on what the rest of this season is going to look like and about Delaware a little bit. So if you didn't watch it yesterday, Colorado had we'll jump into the Ralphie report, but Colorado had a press conference. Coach Prime was there, was asked about Pat Shurmur, Caden, the play calling. This came after sharing his support for Shurmur, defense coordinator Rob Livingston. Sanders added that the Buffs simply need to execute better on offense. So his full quote was, he said, "If we hit the darn plays we hit, we wouldn't be asking these questions." Sanders said. So we had the play there. We just didn't make it happen. You watched the same game I watched, right? We had several plays that we should have made happen. We didn't. They did. So again, this is from our guy, Jack Carlo, Sports Illustrated. I do want to, like always, shout him out. He was on our show. Fantastic job at Sports Illustrated. So if you just Google his name, first thing that comes up is Sports Illustrated, his column there. So make sure that you guys do give him a follow. But again, that was kind of a tough, I don't know the right word. That was a tough press conference. Again, we talked about this yesterday when I went live, but we do have to take this as coaches speak. Again, Prime knows what's going on. Everybody saw, he saw what we saw. But and again, like I said yesterday, if you hit the darn, he says, if we hit the plays, well, you didn't. So, and the team didn't. So this is why these questions come up at this point. So it's just one of those things. Hopefully there was more. And again, I could say more than likely there was more conversation had behind the scenes. But again, plays were not hit. And again, this is the backlash of that. So we'll see what they come out with this weekend. But he did, one of the other things that Prime did talk about was Julian Lewis getting some burn this weekend. So his response when asked about who's going to start this or that, he says he's referencing Lewis playing this week for sure. Sanders said, "I know what I'm going to see. You just don't know what you're going to see." So again, I don't know what that means. My bold prediction, hot take, whatever you want to call it for this week, is we're going to see Julian Lewis start this week. And again, maybe not play the whole time. But what we need is, like I said, I think he is going to be playing a good chunk of he will start, and he will be playing maybe 30-40% of the time, but I do think Julian will start. Now, someone else in the audience, in the press conference asked him kind of about, okay, so Julian's starting, and what he, the clarifying question, he said, well, we take one thing at a time. Sanders said, "I just told you he was playing. Now you're saying he's starting. You got to understand, I love that kid. I really do. I want him to be extremely successful. Sometimes you don't want to rush things. Sometimes you don't want to delay things. You want to make sure the timing is right." So again, shout out to Jack Harlow for that. But he seemed I guess touchy with that question. I'm not sure what that was all about, but again, you have Julian goes out there, plays well, lights it up, does his thing. And, he will, because again, he's going to look very good against Delaware this weekend, right? Starting or not, you're going to see, it's a 5-star quarterback, right? We've seen a couple of the quarterbacks do their things this past weekend. We had a couple, we had those freshman quarterbacks starting. There was, I think, 13 touchdowns combined with these freshman quarterbacks. I did have the statistics pulled up on that. It was just, I can't remember who posted. I think it was Buff Boy in the We Coming in Twitter. If you have not followed him, I would highly suggest, giving him a follow at this point. So basically, 6 Power 4 freshmen. So Sega Polatuli, Sayin, Washington, Underwood, Carr, and Bachmeyer. So Bachmeyer, that's our guy from I shouldn't say our guy. That's in conference Big 12. 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is what they combined for. Over 1,100 yards, 64.8 completion percentage, 5-1 win-loss record. So, it kind of makes you think a little bit, right? Like, what would our 5-star have done this weekend? So, again, he is going to have a really good showing this weekend. And again, I don't know if that's what, already there's kind of a little bit of a quarterback controversy going on right now. Who should start? Who should play more? So again, this is only going to add maybe a little bit fuel to the fire. And then again, I think Houston is when we're going to see things start to really lean one way or the other. Also, linebacker Reggie Hughes spoke today. What he said was, the defense goes as we go, meaning linebackers, says Coach Prime is hard on us. Again, that linebacking crew, French also spoke, Martavius French. In my opinion, he had a really good game this past Friday night. He said, we're trying to learn each other more and more. We can talk to each other and get on each other without having our emotions in it. So again, just something to pay attention to. One that was really big was Coach Hart, linebacker coach, talked about Sean Myers. He said, we're going to depend on him and he's going to get some snaps. So let that be what it may be. I know that Reggie Hughes said he had some kind of injury this past week. So we'll see on that, but it looks like Sean Myers has, earned himself some playing time. So we'll see what that looks like. I wouldn't even be shocked if he starts this weekend at one of those linebacker positions. He was very, very good this past weekend, or Friday night, I should say. So on to the next. Just one thing to keep around with the quarterback position this weekend. Tune into it, right? If you're at the stadium, we'll see who starts. But again, I would not be shocked if we see Julian Lewis go out there and start. Now, let's dive into a little bit of recruiting. We have a new Flip Watch candidate. And it's a scheduled visit. So one of our new, so let's take a look at, not a Flip Watch yet. one of our guys that is looking to take a visit. This is Tavian Branch out of Riverside High School in Taylor, Pennsylvania. 6'3.5", 300 pounds, rated as the number 95th defensive lineman in the country and the 21st in Pennsylvania. He was previously committed to Rutgers on June 11th. Now he decommits from Rutgers and is working on visits with Penn State, Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, and Colorado. So we will see what Tavian does. A little bit about him. So you do see there is our new flip watch. Let me talk about one that just came up. This is Alexander Ward. So this is the one I was talking about, a four-star recruit that is seen as an athlete. He is currently committed to Alabama. Now, I did not have time to update my graphic here. He is a four-star recruit athlete, and he is visiting this weekend actually for the Delaware game. So that is something for us to all watch. Pay attention to that. So real good player, 6'1", 174. He is in 24/7 Sports Composite, nationally ranked the 212th player. He is the 9th ranked athlete, and in the state of Florida, the 28th ranked overall player. So again, just something to keep our eyes on. Alexander Ward will be here this weekend. If you have not watched him, again, this is another IMG Academy player. So keep your eyes on that. Now, Tavian Branch. This is guy that is on FlipWatch. So let's take a deep dive into him real quick. Just a couple things about him. Like I said, he's quick off the snap, explosive first step, penetrates gaps, disrupts plays early, uses low pad level, strong hand placement to win at the point of attack, high motor with 25 TFLs, 10.5 sacks in 2024, 2 sacks, 3 TFLs in week 2 this past week. So, week 2, yeah, this past weekend. Physicality, again, he's 6'3", 6'5", depending on 305 with functional strength, versatility, capable of playing D tackle or offensive tackle. Weakness, though, pass rush repertoire. So again, that interior pass rush is going to be, we're going to see a lot. It not rare, but it is one of those things that you don't see a ton of, but relies heavily on initial bursts, needs more varied moves to counter double teams. But just, the fit in Colorado's scheme, right? We all seen Colorado runs a 4-2-5 base defense under Rob Livingston. It emphasizes aggressive interior play to stop the run and pressure the quarterback. Branch's quickness and his ability will be able to disrupt in the backfield. This does align well, particularly as a 3-tech defensive tackle tasked with penetrating gaps. Now, the next one, right? So we didn't really get a chance to talk about him, but I got tons of comments on this. But Jamarcia Plater. So with him, this is one that I'm excited with. So in last season, he racked up 2,234 rushing yards and 32 touchdowns. Also, 8 touchdown game. So it was a 287-yard, 8 touchdown game versus some team that they played. I'm not even going to try to butcher that name. He has elite speed, all city track honors in the 200 meter, giving him breakaway ability to turn short runs into long gains. He is listed as a running back / athlete. Again, experience at DB and potential as a slot receiver, offering flexibility in multiple roles. Again, this is one that I'm excited for. One that a couple individuals blew up my comments on, which is fantastic. Love that kind of stuff. But this is a player the Buffaloes hopefully are able to go hard after at this point. So really excited for him. We'll see what he does. Hopefully they get a visit scheduled. But again, take a look at the Colorado Flip Watch that we have here on the board. Colorado has some, they got they got themselves a full Flip Watch going on here, right? So a whole plethora of it. So really excited to see what these dudes do. Right, it'd be great to land every single one of them, but that's not realistic, obviously. But again, just something to keep our eyes on as we move forward and the season goes further and further. And again, make sure that you guys always tune in. Make sure that you guys always tune in to get the latest updates on recruiting. Again, this is our flip watch. This is our chart that we have. I will tweet that out as well. So again, make sure to follow me on X. That'll be tweeted out this evening. But again, just really exciting, really big time right now for Colorado right now. So with recruiting done, what I want to jump into is our Delaware conversation. A real nice person I met, Bryce Leslie. Again, you'll see his information at the bottom of the screen. But we had a really in-depth conversation. It was not supposed to take as long as it did. So it is about an hour and 10 minutes. But him and I just curious about what Delaware does. He was curious about what Colorado does. One of the things we did get into was my wife is asking me, well, why do they look like Michigan? So that is a question I asked him. And so he had a great response to it. He kind of led us to that point as well. But seems like a pretty solid team that's coming in here. Seems like they're excited to be up at the FBS level. And it seems like there is they have a big fan base following. So we'll get this going. Make sure again to hang on. We will be with you guys right after I'll be on here. Start taking some questions. We could talk about whatever it is that we see moving forward. And then those of us on X that are watching, appreciate it. But if we can get, we're going to end that stream here shortly. If you could just catch us here on the YouTube link, that would be fantastic. So without further ado, here is the conversation that was had with Bryce Leslie. All right, we have Bryce here with us we have him from SS Blue Hens. Again, Bryce, thanks for joining us. Happy to have you.
Manny, thanks so much for reaching out and inviting me on. Super excited to talk Blue Hens and Buffaloes heading into week 2 of the season this fall.
Absolutely. And again, I'm just thrilled that we were able to connect last week and get this rolling. There is a website. Make sure you go to it, feathersandfieldgoals.com. And again, they do a fantastic job there. So please, I think you got a team of 3.
Yeah, there's 3 of us on the scenes there for our podcast, Feathers and Field Goals. And then we have a couple in the background that are just joining as well. We have a photographer that is a incoming senior in college at UD, and she's able to get on the scenes and flow our site with a bunch of great pictures. And we have another person in the background helping us with a lot of analytics in the background, because today's game is so analytical based, and sometimes it's all over my head. So I like to bring someone on to share me some things that you can't just find from the box score. So I'd say like main core of 3, but we have a full team of 5, and it's kind of our third year in action at Feathers and Field Goals, and super excited now, really upping our coverage now that the program's in FBS.
FBS, yeah, and that's something, like we alluded to that I alluded to you, we'll talk about here. I'm just kind of, curious what that looks like, as far as that jump up to FBS, what it looks like, all those kind of questions around it. But just a little bit, if you don't mind, Bryce, just kind of want to ask you, right? So, we're way out west here in Colorado. We're still in Mountain Time. We're not in Pacific Time. But just tell us a little bit about yourself, if you're okay with it, where you were from, your upbringing, and how you got involved with Delaware athletics.
Yeah, well, I got to say first, this past Memorial Day weekend, I had my bachelor party out in Denver, and we had to drive through Boulder on our way back into the city from Rocky Mountain National Park. And man, it was beautiful. I wish I saved the money for that trip to happen this weekend when the Blue Hens are going to be out there. But very nice people out there, and I'm super excited to see the Hens in action out in Boulder. Just such a beautiful area, campus, and but getting into myself and my story of Delaware athletics. So I started at school at University of Delaware in 2019. I was that first freshman year COVID class that went home, and before I became a Blue Hen, I grew up a massive Notre Dame Fighting Irish football fan, and I grew up just following all of the recruiting pages and understanding what high schoolers are coming, what players in the transfer portal are coming, and that COVID year hit freshman year, and thinking into the springtime. And in my head, I was thinking there's no coverage on who these Delaware incoming athletes are. So I created my own Twitter page. It started as UD Recruiting, and I just tracked all of the offers, all of the commitments, all of the visits on my page. And, a few years time, I've doing that consistently, slowly building it up. Sideline Sports Network reached out to me when Delaware did get the move up to FBS, and asked me to be the correspondent for University of Delaware athletics for their page. So it went from tweets about recruiting to now articles, and it opened up my network into now creating this podcast, Feathers and Field Goals Today. And so I'm a proud 2023 alum. My wife is also an alum as well. They call two Delaware alumni that get married double Dells. So I'm a proud double Dell, and I'm a proud Delaware alumni, and super excited now to take all of that backstory and be here with you today.
No, absolutely. That sounds awesome. And, if you would have, we were texting, we were going back and forth, DMing on Twitter. If you would have let me know, I mean, I knew you were out here for your bachelor party, but hey, we have an extra ticket to the Buff. So if you would have let me know, I'd have been like, come on, let's go to Georgia Tech, Bryce.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Oh, my God.
It worked out perfect because that Thursday night, Delaware had their opening game, and it worked out perfect to follow that first Colorado Georgia Tech game myself. I was like, well, it's our week one's over, time to get ready for week two and to watch some Colorado football. And I know unfortunately didn't come out on top, but still enjoyed finally having football back on the screen.
No, absolutely. And on Monday, if you guys missed my podcast on Monday, I have a good rant that I went on about the game from last Friday. So yeah, but we're past that at this point. We're on to Delaware. So Bryce, if you don't mind, I'm going to get my Howard Cosell on here, ask you some questions, I'm just curious, I guess, the first year moving into FBS, what is the feel around the program? Has this jump in competition changed the atmosphere?
Yeah, I can't speak for 100% of the fan base in Newark. There definitely is a percentage of fans that are really going to miss the FCS environment because they really prioritize the environment where playoffs are the end goal in FCS. You have a 24-team playoff, and Delaware was always fighting for playoff spots, hosting playoff games every year, and that was a cool atmosphere. And so I know a lot of people don't like the FBS bowl environment, but that's a small percentage. I can say that, the overall atmosphere, the overall feelings around campus are that this move was really coming for a long time, and just super happy that it's came, especially now with a lot more restrictions on the move up. I think Delaware was the first team to pay the big million whatever money just to move up. It used to be a lot cheaper than that, and Delaware was the first to do that. But the largest in week one, they're hosting the Route 1 rivalry. They hosted Delaware State. It was the largest student attendance in program history on that Thursday night. It's been the most season ticket sales they've had in the past decade as an athletics department, and just super excited. I mean, me as an alum, I'm super excited. You're just not getting to. You get to play maybe a team like Colorado or a team like Penn State or a team like Maryland locally. You might be able to play them once a year. But now you get to fill them up in your schedule. And I just think it's such a cool opportunity for the school, more national coverage, non-athletics, it's a real selling point for incoming students to come to the school. It's, that place looks awesome. I'm watching on Fox on a Saturday afternoon, and just super excited. I think we'll definitely get into the football side of it, but the academics and for the school as a whole is such a big opportunity.
No, absolutely. It is really cool. Last year when I looked at the schedule, right, because we can see who's scheduled out, it's like, oh, okay, Delaware. And, there I'm like, okay, FCS, here we go. Colorado, again, if we're trying to be one of the big dogs, we shouldn't be scheduling this. And then, we were going through, I don't even know why I didn't know this. We were going through at the beginning of the summer. Oh, I shouldn't say, maybe mid-July, maybe early July when I started this. And I was thinking, I was going, okay, so there's 136 total teams. But there was 134 last year. What am I missing? So it was Missouri State and it was Delaware. And I was just like, oh, cool, FBS, cool. This looks great. But with that being said, so and again, I just have to ask. So is Delaware State, is that the rival in the state right now? Is that the big rival, or was?
Yeah, so it's the only two Division I programs for football in the state. There's some smaller schools, but it's tough. They play the Ruum rivalry because that's the interstate that connects two schools. But unfortunately, I really wouldn't call it much of a rivalry. Heading into week 1, Delaware was 11-0 in head-to-head history, and I don't think there was ever a single-digit deficit ever. And it's just a difference of school size, prestige, the funding that's going into the athletic department. I would say Delaware is more of their rivals heading in their past, where Villanova, James Madison, Connecticut, Temple back in the day. So now that they're going to lose Villanova, they're still able to schedule Delaware State once a year if they choose to. But super excited to now get some of those local rivalries back that they used to have back when the schools I mentioned were in FCS before they moved up.
And so again, off script here, Bryce, so bear with me. I'm trying to who's the new rival then? Who's going to fill that role for Delaware?
I'm super curious to see, because heading into Conference USA and you're playing against schools over. I was talking to a Florida International representative the other day, and he was asking me about the food in Delaware, and I think he was assuming that it was all New England style food. And I was Delaware, it might look like that on the map, but I can tell you it's not New England at all. So, the coverage is going to be interesting because they're playing schools all the way out in Texas. They're playing schools in Florida. They're playing schools everywhere in between that. It's really a true Conference USA, and kind of every conference in football and college athletics nowadays. It's all spread out. Looking at the Big 12, like yourself, you're playing schools all over, and yourself leaving the pack where it was a little bit more regional based, and now you're playing schools on the East Coast even, or even in Florida yourselves. So really curious to see. They do have some, like you said, about scheduling out in advance. They have some of those non-conference games where they get to play some of those schools, like I mentioned, Connecticut, Temple, James Madison. They get to bring some of them back, but I would say the teams that they're going to play on an annual basis now, the closest regionally is going to be Liberty. They're really strong. We've seen them in a New Year's Six Bowl the past couple of years. I know you definitely had to do your homework on Liberty now with Caden Salter coming in and leading the way at quarterback as well. So I think that's going to be the natural rivalry to start, just because it's the only road game that's driving distance for both fan bases. So that's going to kick off the first Saturday in November, and I'm excited to see how that goes.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Does Delaware host that, or is that at Liberty?
It'll be at Liberty. It'll be in Lynchburg. So I got the email for that one. Like it or not, the Liberty University is very strict on some things. I got the email, no alcohol tailgates allowed. So that'll be interesting.
So there's no alcohol allowed in the stadiums, and they don't serve.
Yeah, they don't sell in the stadiums. None allowed on campus. So that might start a rivalry within the fan base pretty fast as well. I think a lot of Delaware fans are gonna get there a little confused. So
yeah, that is okay. All right. So now let's dive into just Delaware this past weekend. So because they played Saturday, or was it Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, they kicked it off Thursday night. They were one of the few teams to kick it off before the 5-day weekend of games. I think we have another one tonight, North Carolina TCU, and yeah, they played the first night, so I was able to kick back and watch the other ones. Yeah, Thursday night against Delaware State.
Yeah, so I did catch it. I was going across the ticker on the bottom, and it said I was just looking, and I was like, man, they are beating the brakes off of Delaware State, and so I was just kind of like, okay, so is this a rivalry, kind of like how you said? But what was the key to the game, and was this expected this past weekend?
Yeah, I definitely think it was expected. What I will tell you was unexpected was the start for the Blue Hens. Heading into the game, they're really excited to bring Zach Marker back, leading the program for. He got hurt in 2023, season-ending leg injury. 24, he redshirted to lead the Hens in 25 for its first FBS season. Second drive of the game, first play, scrambles out, gets the first yard, but then can't get up on his own. Looks like that same leg. And, I think that really kind of threw off kind of the vibes around the entire team to start off. And but once it got going, they got going. Nick Minicucci came off the bench, the junior, who's filled in for quarterback injuries each of the past 3 years. As a true freshman, even came in and started an FCS playoff game in his first career start. But once he got in and got going, the offense scored touchdowns on 4 of its final 5 drives. The defense really got it together. But there was one point, I think it was 3-0 Delaware State, like towards the back, I think like 5-6 minutes left in the second quarter. But when you look at the final, you wouldn't even understand that really. And I would say expected result. But I think it took a while for the program to really get comfortable after that shakeup to start the game.
No, absolutely. And that was my question, right? So, I'm Bryce, I'm just not even going to try to be like, I watch every game. I have never watched Delaware. I'm just going to be completely honest. When I do see, when I seen Joe Flacco come out, I remember Rich Gannon. I remember just being like, wow, they look like Michigan, right?
The winged helmets. That's a great backstory within itself.
Okay, we're gonna get to that before we leave, because that was like, my wife, she is always like, you should ask him about the Michigan helmets. I said, well, we'll see how it goes. I don't really care about that, but now I got to hear it. So we'll jump to that here in a bit. But you talked about Marker, right? The quarterback, where it looked like, so last year, I was just kind of doing my research on it and trying to figure out a couple things, even as far as a month ago, didn't really dive as much as I should have into Delaware. But I am curious, though. It looked like, was there 3 quarterbacks that played a lot last year?
Yeah, I would say the past 2 years, it was, the same trio of quarterbacks. It was Zach Marker, Nick Minicucci, who I just mentioned. And then the actual starter for both 2023 and 2024 was Ryan O'Connor, who was with the program for since it's with the COVID years, redshirt years, injury years. I think he was part of the program for a long time, 2019, 2020. But yeah, all 3 of them saw time. Maybe it was because of injury. Maybe it was for redshirt, saving them for 25. And then that was the case for Marker. But fortunately, now dealing with a quarterback injury and thoughts to him, because it's not looking likely that he's going to be seeing the field anytime soon after this, heading into his last year of eligibility. But fortunately now for the Hens that Nick Minicucci has had that experience. Now you're not rolling out somebody that's never experienced the playbook for the first time.
Okay, great. Because I was like, are they running a 3-system quarterback? And that's
it's funny. They did that in 2023. It was Zach Marker and O'Connor. They were fighting for the job in the beginning of the year, and basically every couple of drive they would switch off each and every one of them until I think Marker did get an injury in a game against Penn State, and then O'Connor won the job from there for the rest of the season. So they've done it before, but yeah, it was going to be Marker all the way to start this year. Unfortunately, now it's going to be Minicucci's time.
Yeah, and injuries are never fun. Godspeed to him. Marker, hopefully he gets healthy again. Nobody wants to see us, the worst part of the game. And but I did read about that, and I was like, is there a 3 quarterback system? So I think one of my questions was to you is Delaware seems to be a 2 QB system, and it's like that's not the case anymore. So was Marker more of the dual threat though? Because just looking at the box score, it looks like he had however many plays he played, he had a good chunk of rushing yards, right? I believe like 34, 44 or something around there.
Yeah, Marker definitely can step out and run, and that's kind of what you're setting yourself up to if you're leaving that pocket and trying to fight for that extra first down. You're leaving yourself exposed to maybe a few more hits, and I would say definitely Marker was very dual threat, ran the offense very well. I'm sure we're going to get into the offensive style here. And Minicucci, I'd say, likes to pass it, but he also can step out. Actually, the first touchdown of the FBS season was a designed quarterback draw. Minicucci took it from shotgun, took a couple steps, and then just went straight to the end zone. So they have their own style with it. I think Marker maybe has the ability to feel and scramble it on his own, but Minicucci can also get out of the pocket when needed as well.
Okay. No, that's good to know. And let's just jump into it. You alluded to the offensive style. What can we expect from Delaware on offense?
Yeah, I would say it's funny to say this. I'm sure all coaches want to think that they want to play balanced, but that's really the expectations for this offense. They really look to spread the ball around. It's maybe not just 1 or 2 players getting all of the targets or carries. They're going to run a lot of RPOs. It's a program that really is going to get the ball out quick. Very up tempo. I think there's a lot of no huddle in this first game. Head coach Ryan Carty is the play caller. You mentioned all those great quarterbacks. Brian Carty was actually a former Blue Hen quarterback himself. He was the backup to Joe Flacco and a lot of other quarterbacks in the early 2000s. He's back now as an alumni and is the play caller as well as being the head coach. But runs a very quick offense. that's going to get the ball out quick and try to keep the tempo of the game in their hands.
Okay, very cool. No, and I know, that RPO that has changed the a lot of the football game as we know it, right? Like it is predicated on either you're reading crashing ends, linebackers, whatever it may be, reading whatever it may be, and that ball needs to get out or the ball needs to get handed off. It's all quick hitting, and it protects the quarterback quite a bit, right? These dudes don't have to pass protect for 4 or 5 seconds, right, just to make something happen. So that's good to know. And again, something that RPO was, that we went over on Monday was, the running quarterback. Colorado has struggled with that since last year. Jaden Daniels, you look at that, right at the end of the year against Kansas. Jalen Daniels, gosh, I always say the wrong Daniels.
It's too close. It's too close.
Oh my gosh, I always mess that up. But Jalen Daniels, he torched him. He torched him last year. And again, this is just something that we need to look at. You look at what Haynes King did, 156 yards rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground. So again, it's coming again at Colorado this weekend. So I'm curious to see what that looks like, right? Because you and I talked about before the game, right? It's a 23.5 point spread right now. It's a lot of points, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, Colorado has to stop somebody running right now. They have to stop a quarterback. They have not done it in the coach primary yet. With the mobile quarterback and this RPO, they have not it has not fared well for them at this point. So now I know that I was reading about a receiver. I cannot remember his name. What is his name? I believe he led him in receiving this past game. I should have wrote it down.
You're good. So I can help. You're giving me the assist on this one. So the leading the way for the Blue Hens on receiving in game 1 was Michigan transfer Jake Thaw. He transferred in from Michigan when he was a walk-on. He was actually the punt returner 2 years ago for the program, and he was second in receiving last year. The big play receiver in the wide receiver room last year was Phil Lutz, who was a really surprise breakout player, came from the D3 up to D1, led the offense in scoring with 900 yards. I think got the double-digit touchdowns, and losing Lutz was definitely a big loss for the room. But Thaw's back, and he led the way. Had 92 yards against Delaware State, including a big 50-yard touchdown on a third down that really sealed the game for the Hens. Another receiver to watch is definitely Kyrie Duplessis, a Coastal Carolina transfer in his first season at Delaware. If you saw that Notre Dame-Miami game last night, Miami receiver made that one-handed catch in the end zone. Kyrie Duplessis made a one-handed catch very similar to that hasn't really made the spotlight on some of these networks, but he as well had a great first game as a Blue Hen. He's out as the Team Z receiver on the right side. He already, as in his 4 or 5 year collegiate career in week 1 for the Blue Hens, he set single game career highs in receptions and receiving yards. So I think he's someone that they're going to want to get the ball to as well. And another player that, started with Thaw and Duplessis was redshirt freshman Sean Wilson, who may be projected to really take a breakout season this year as the X receiver. And I know they were trying to get the ball to him early. Maybe he didn't equate to the yards and catches, but he's probably going to get a lot of targets on Saturday as well.
No, thank you. Great information. Yeah. And I know, I'm excited to see what Delaware looks like, and I'm also excited to see these playmakers, right? I want to see them, right? Because again, it's and they look cool, right? I always say Michigan has really cool helmets, and now we get to see Delaware with their cool helmets at Folsom here in Boulder. But yeah, no, thank you for that insight. And I want to turn it back over to you and see, for our Delaware fans, your Delaware fans, if you have any questions about the CU offense for me.
Yeah, I mean, the first one I definitely have to hit. You were talking about the quarterback not being able to stop running quarterbacks for Colorado. We're going to get to the Delaware defense, but it's a very similar issue that Delaware has had in years past. And the Colorado quarterback this year was a quarterback I was doing a lot of background work on last season, expecting to see him when Delaware faced off against Liberty this year. But Caden Salter now moving to Colorado, being the first quarterback now taking over the offense of Coach Prime after Shadur goes to the NFL. How do you like Caden? Does he add a different element to the offense that Sanders didn't? And how did he look in his first week with the Buffalo's offense?
Yeah, so the first week, and again, the fans that are on that follow, my podcast, the Colorado podcast, they heard me rant about it on Monday after the game, but the offense looked confused. There was no rhyme and rhythm to it. It was, Caden. They didn't let Caden be Caden. It looked like, or maybe it was in his mind that he needed to turn into a passer, but Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator, right, former head coach in the NFL, former offensive coordinator, it felt like he was calling plays like Shedeur Sanders was still there. There was not a lot of something would work, so they had a running back, Michael Welch, averaging 5.8 carries per 5.8 yards per carry. He ran the ball 11 times. The run game gets going, and then for some reason they go out there and start passing it. There was not a ton of designed quarterback runs. There was one RPO that I remember that actually worked. And that wasn't until the third quarter. And it was a real quick read, throw it out to Joseph Williams. He took off. So it was, and again, this is, what I spoke about on Monday's show was if this is the route that they're going to go, they're better off playing Julian Lewis, right? The freshman phenom, 5-star recruit out of Carrollton, Georgia. If this is the offense you're going to run, you need to put Julian Lewis in and let him do his thing, because the element that Caden brings is that difference. That is what separates right now him from Julian Lewis, right? And they didn't do a lot of that. It just felt like they were stuck in the mud. Something was working and they would go away from it. There was a lot of horizontal play going on. There was not a ton of RPOs that were designed to keep, not a ton of quarterback keepers, not a lot of, and again, if you don't follow Colorado, we think their whole receiving core went to the NFL, including Heisman Trophy went to Travis Hunter. The Buffs have a stacked wide receiver room. So again, if you're not in Boulder, this is kind of this is the fill, right? And again, not everyone's supposed to know, which is okay. But they didn't get it to their playmakers. I believe it was four targets, 4 or 5 targets was the most, and it was to a running back. Not a lot of design, not a lot of, they did not get very creative with it. And again, you have that opportunity with Caden Salter to play action, throw it deep, those kind, because he still has a cannon of an arm, but it was just kind of like they were calling it offense for Shedeur. So I don't know where I am at this right now, but part of me thinks Julian Lewis is going to start on Saturday. But wow. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know that, I don't know any inside information as much as I would love to be connected. Part of me says that they may start him because they do have to get him some experience somewhere. And again, with this day and age in NIL, you have to play these guys young. So, and especially of the caliber of Julian Lewis, he is the second, depending on which one you use, but one of the highest recruits, if not the highest recruit ever landed at the University of Colorado. So I would not be shocked to see him start this weekend. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but Pat Shurmur did Caden Salter no favors this weekend. They need to let him be Caden Salter and not Shedeur or even Julian Lewis. So that's kind of where we're at with this. So we'll see if the play calling gets more creative, but last week was not a good look, right? So
yeah, you're gonna have me tracking that for sure now. Seeing if that take does come true and Julian Lewis is under center the first drive of Saturday. So I mean, if it does happen, you have to keep that receipt and go from that. But I'm sure I can understand that frustration, and just watching some of that game and seeing how Georgia Tech was utilizing Haynes King. And they had him running, north, south, east, west, a lot of different quarterback play designs there. And I'm sure Caden Salter is seeing that across the way, coming from a Liberty system where he was in a read option offense with Liberty. And so if they're going to really, try to turn him into a passer, we'll see how that goes. But you talked about some of these really athletic players out wide after losing all these receivers, these playmakers. And you said they've lost a lot, but they're really loaded. Can you talk about some of these names that maybe didn't show up in week 1, but are expected to be big contributors in 2025?
Absolutely. So Amarian Miller, number 4, he was a 4-star coming out. So as a freshman, when the last year Colorado was in the Pac-12 against USC, I believe it was like 8 catches, 12 catches for like 150 yards and a half. Ended up getting hurt. I think he had like a touchdown or 2 as well. Played a half. Last year against Kansas State, Colorado's first 2-3 outside of Will Shepard, the next 3 got hurt. Amari Miller went in, had 8 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. Got hurt, and again, this is a constant thing with him. He was targeted once and had a 38, 39-yard reception, and that was the only target he had, the only real vertical, and again, from the stands watching it, that I remember them getting vertical, right, on routes, right? So he is really good. That's one to keep your eye on. He had a huge camp, and again, outside of in Boulder, if you're a Colorado fan, we are all very, we're pretty familiar who Amari and Miller is. Our next guy is Draylon Miller. Where's number 6? This is the Deebo Samuel. He for the 49ers, I should say. He is that role. Early 49er Deebo Samuel that that's the Swiss Army knife kind of thing, the gadget guy. They'll line him up sometimes at running back. They'll line him sometimes up right in the slot. He moves around a lot. And again, this past weekend that did not happen, but you get him going. There's a lot of options for him. And then you move into Sincere Brown, a transfer from Colgate, 6'5", 195, runs a 4.3, 4.4 40. Could just flat out fly. There was no street grand to him. Really good. Had over 1,000 yards over the past 2 years at Colgate. Joseph Williams. So he is a sophomore. He was the AAC freshman of the year there at Tulsa that transferred in. Really good player as well. He's one of the guys that will go up and get it. Very, very athletic, freakishly athletic, that kind of thing. And then the next one is Hakeem Williams, former 5-star recruit from Florida State that they got. He transferred, hit the portal last year after that disastrous season for Florida State, hit the portal. He got, I think, 1 target. But again, they have talent there. And it's almost like, and then even last year, I said the freshman, 2 freshmen they have coming in. His name's Quentin Gibson out of Texas. He was the Max Preps Player of the Year. Had over 2,000 yards receiving and over 30 touchdowns last year as a senior in high school at Carthage, Texas. Won a state championship there, and just a phenomenal player. Cornell Farrakhan, a 4-star. So again, it is like there's a ton of talent there, and it just looked like, right, and you could tell during the game, Coach Prime was upset. You could, he was yelling, and it looked like it. From right, we get reports. I watch everything, and said that was addressed. Like, you have to get the ball into the playmaker's hands. So we'll see what that looks like. But those are the receivers that they're looking at. Their offensive line, again, I know you didn't ask that. Their offensive line averages 6'3", 332 pounds across. They are humongous. They have rebuilt that. Defensive line has been rebuilt. So again, that poor performance that they had, even, going up, you had 3 turnovers in the first 8 minutes of the game, and you're up 7-0 after those. I remember, we were sitting there and I said, this is bad. They just lost the game after not being able to do that. So convert on those. So yeah, so hopefully that's a mouthful, but they are super talented at the receiver position.
Yeah, well, be excited to see it. And you kind of, you gave me a segue to my next question about the offensive line. And I know we're going to get into the Delaware defense here shortly and their structure, but I would say, the Delaware defensive scheme is very vulnerable to the run. So how is that offensive line? You said maybe they didn't go to the run game as much as you would have liked to in week 1, but talk about some of the offensive line retooling that they did this offseason.
Right. So, the only returner this year, right, Jordan Seaton, he was the number 1 offensive tackle out of IMG Academy that committed a couple years ago. He is a true sophomore now, started as a true freshman, was a freshman All-American last year. He had a great game. This dude would be a top, 10, 15 pick right now in the NFL draft after a sophomore season. Put on a ton of muscle this past offseason. Phenomenal, led the nation. I think it was like an 89.5 point grade from Pro Football Focus this past weekend as far as a pass pro. Just a fantastic player. Next to him, you got Xavier Hill from Memphis. Xavier Hill. There's a freshman coming in named Xavier Payne. I'm messing those two up that plays guard. But he was the number 1 at one point the number one player in the portal. So he was a right tackle at Memphis. They kicked him into he's a left guard now. So that left side is really, really good. Both of those dudes will play on Sunday at some point, whether that be a starter role, special teams, they will play on Sunday. And then let's go jump to the other side. Right tackle is Larry Johnson, the third transfer from Tennessee. I believe he's 6'5", 360, 370, just a massive human being. He had a good game. The right guard, they were with Harden was substituting and Zy Chrysler this past weekend. And again, one of the things, I guess one of my pet peeves is, I played offensive line growing up, so I understand that position needs to gel. So Zy Chrysler and Harden were coming in and just switching. And it just makes no sense to me because that's one of those positions that needs to gel. They just need time to play, especially with 4 new starters, right? These guys have never played before. And then center was Zarian McGill, another transfer. But they have a very good offensive line. They were able to run the football. They were able to do kind of whatever they wanted to a point, right? Unless they sold out on the run, which again, I don't know why we're not audibling. There was a play, 1st and goal at the 5-yard line. Buffs didn't score. They lose 4 yards on the first play because everybody in the whole stadium knew they were running it. Beside the point, but their offensive line is they're massive, so they can play. They have a tight end, Zach Atkins. It's a transfer as well. 6'5", what is he, 230, 240, kind of one of those freakish guys that you have. Number 85, he caught a couple passes, and he can, he does a pretty good job blocking as well. So you will see them get pushed. They were pushing Georgia Tech. They are massive. The first thing I looked at was when Colorado's, that their offense came on the field. I was just sitting there staring like, holy, these dudes are massive. Look at how big they are compared to Georgia Tech. So they were able to run the football. It's just that they have to be consistent with it, right? You're going to have 1 yard, 8 yards, right? That's just how it goes to run the football. But they need to develop an identity. And I think with Caden Salter as your quarterback, that has to be your identity. If you go with Julian, then fine. You can do what you did the other day to an extent, I should say. But so we'll see what that looks like. But that is what their offensive line looks like right now.
Yeah, well, I'm going to probably throw it back to you to talk about the Delaware defense, but this is probably going to be the biggest, strongest offensive line they play all year with their Conference USA schedule, and with the playmakers out wide, probably some of the fastest and most talented playmakers as well. So a lot of experience returning for the Delaware defense, but a lot of experience at the FCS level. So this will be a huge test for them early season and seeing where they're at before their conference schedule kicks off. So thanks for giving a little insight on the Buffaloes offense, and I'll throw it back to you so we can get into the defense.
Perfect. So So can you tell us about, this Delaware defense? What is their base personnel? So what defense do they run? And what is it that they're going to try and force Colorado to do?
Yeah, I would say that Delaware's defensive coordinator Manny Rojas, who's been with the program longer than head coach Ryan Carty. Carty was hired and kept Rojas a part of the staff. Runs a 3-3-5 defensive structure, playing with 3 safeties in the back end of their system, which is a system that not really seen a lot at the FCS level. I know more FBS teams do run it when they have those stronger defensive line up front that can take those offensive linemen on at a higher level. But at FCS, you don't really see a 3-3-5 defense. So I know it was a unique structure that really threw a lot of fits for FCS offenses, and they really struggled to pick apart 3 high. They say 3 high life with their safeties. That's their kind of motto in the back end. I think the best message of their style is bend, don't break. And I think that's kind of the style you're setting yourself up to with a 3-3-5. They don't like to get beat over top. They like to keep everything in front of you. I would say their skill positions on defense at corner and safety are what really drives their success. It's really going to come down. That's why I asked you about the offensive line. It's really going to come down to the run game for the Delaware defense. They gave up 200 yards rushing to Delaware State in week 1, and it's not going to be good enough. 4 runs over 20 yards, a couple of them breaking to 40 to 50 yards. It's not a recipe for success, especially against a team that wants to run the ball. I'm sure Blue Hens fans probably just listened to you saying, sure, please, Colorado, pass it, because the run game was really, really vulnerable in week 1, and that's something they'll need to clean up immediately.
Okay, no, perfect. And I did see this. So some of my research led me a couple weeks ago to Gavin Mole, right? Am I saying that right?
Gavin Mole, yep, you have it.
He is the team's returning tackle. He led the team in tackles last year, I believe it's 71. He had 11 total tackles last week. What does he seem to do well? Because that is, that's what popped off to me just looking at, right when you start looking at the stat sheet.
Yeah, Gavin Mole is a linebacker that wasn't really recruited at the FBS level coming out of high school. He was coming out of high school in Pittsburgh area, Bethel Park High School. He was a little undersized heading into college, but coming into Delaware as a freshman in 2023 was asked to play key snaps immediately and really broke out last season. Like you said, led the team in tackles, got all CAA recognition as deservingly so. He plays at the Mike spot. He's always going to be in the box. He's going to be one of the first ones to get his hands on the running back after the breaks through the trenches on either side. He plays tough, and I would say he really stands out in the run game. He's a really strong run defender for the Blue Hens. He's when you have a three-man front, having somebody that excels as a run defender right behind them, limits a lot of yards after contact or yards after initial contact for the running back. So, Gavin, he was asked to play immediately as a freshman, and I think he's shown why now coming into his junior year. And I think now you're going to see him now really improve in his pass defense and really improve on his vision as well. Like you said, RPO offenses, you might not know if it's a run or pass. You might not know until 2 seconds after the snap happens. So, just really getting that correct play recognition, that correct vision is important. I think Gavin's ready to take those strides. And a name that you just mentioned, I think he's going to get a lot of more national attention now that Delaware is an FBS.
No, absolutely. And again, and I think just the national attention as well. And again, not tooting our own horn here or anything like that, but Colorado draws that right now for better or for worse, right? It is basically almost every single game they've had over the Coach Prime era is a nationally televised game. Good or bad, Colorado sells right now because of Dion. So, and again, my hope is that it does highlight him. And, maybe some point we'll see him in the portal for the Buffs, right?
We don't have to get there yet.
No, but absolutely. So that is one that I seen that just popped off. And there was another guy, KT, is it Shea?
KT Say, yeah, KT
Say. He had another INT this past weekend, and last year he led the team with 4. What makes it seems like he's the ball hawk back there in the corner? Is he dominant corner?
Yeah, so KT Say, I think a lot of people can make the argument that he is the best player on either side of the ball for Delaware. He plays that middle free safety role in the 3-high life. So he covers the most ground out of any player on that defense. He kind of gets to play like that center fielder and can really, dictate what side of the ball, really read the quarterback. Like Mull, he played as a true freshman in 2023, but he started immediately. I think he had an interception in one of his first couple of games at the collegiate level. His reads and play recognition is top class, and I think that's what you have to be at the free safety role. He does now wear the green dot for the defense as well, so he's communicating the play calls to the 11 men on the field from the staff before the play, which for safety, you really don't see that. I think you usually use the mic in that role. So I think it's really shown his leadership that he's taken up off the field this offseason, adding on to how good he is. And we talked about national attention. I think KT Say is really going to get the most out of any player from either side of the ball for the Hens.
Oh man, no, I thought I saw it listed as cornerback. So that is, free safety. So, and him wearing that green dot, like I don't think I've ever seen that. So as a safety, right? So that is huge. And he, what year is he going into?
Yeah, he's a junior, so he'll have one more year after this. So he's definitely a player that the talent level that he is, Delaware fans should appreciate, because in today's world of college football, you don't know how long the players of this caliber are going to stay. Well,
for your guys' sake, there, I hope they do stay. If they don't, Bryce, we're here in Boulder. We love the portal. We'll take them. So
we'll get there when we get there.
I hope they do stay, because that is, that's awesome though. That's someone I'm going to watch from the stands. Him and Gavin Mole. Those are the two that I have my eyes on. So really excited to see what those two bring this weekend. And now is there anything else about this Delaware defense that we should know as Colorado fans or be on the lookout for, I guess?
Yeah, we talked about, a player in the middle of that defense and player on the back end of that defense. Another player I'd like to highlight in the front is defensive end Noah Matthews. He just transferred in from Kentucky and actually started a few games for the Wildcats last season in SEC play. He's a Delaware native, which was probably a big pull coming back home to a program first season in FBS. He has family members on the team, a corner Kayshawn Cox, who also is a starter as a junior as well now. And those two, talking to them in preseason, we got to meet with each positional groups, a selection of athletes and each positional staff member as media throughout the fall camp, and corners and defensive line were on the same day together, and you could just tell how close Noah and Kayshawn are. But it's been a really cool homecoming for Noah. He looked really strong as a pass rusher in his first game starting for the Blue Hens. Yeah, I think, the defensive line is a very experienced group, but very experienced at the FCS level. And I think bringing somebody that has SEC experience into that group is just going to be huge for a program making that transition. So he didn't end up with any of the stats you're going to see in the box score. He didn't get a sack, a tackle for loss, but he really rushed the quarterback, had a few hurries, and I think someone that is crucial for their success, especially running a three-man front. So that's probably a name I want to give. I think my last question, you talked about it with the Colorado defense a little bit, controlling the rushing quarterbacks. That's an issue that they've had since I've followed them, and they've struggled. The Richmond quarterback last year, the Villanova quarterbacks have been able to run. So now if Caden Salter is the starter on Saturday, it's my question. How do they contain him? Players his style sometimes just always have it their way in the Blue Hens in the past. So I think that's my biggest question mark moving forward, and Noah Matthews is another name to watch out for.
No, absolutely. How do you contain Caden Salter? I think make him one-dimensional. You do that as we seen last game, and again, it was not Georgia Tech making him one-dimensional. It was just that Colorado seemed to want to throw the football and not get Caden out in space and not, turn it into, I don't want to call it backyard football, but more so, and I hate to use this, Colorado Bronco fans here, but turn it into what the Chiefs kind of do, right? With Patrick Mahomes, you just get it there, even, like the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson. You turn it into backyard football, let these dudes run around, move, throw it deep, those kind of things, RPOs. You got your counters, quarterback power through the whatever hole you want to go through, whatever gap it is that you want to go through. But Colorado didn't do that. So if you make them one-dimensional, make Caden Salter sit back there and throw the football, it's going to be Colorado's going to struggle on offense, right? And we've seen that this past weekend. There are about 4 plays that if they were made by Caden Salter, the outlook of the game is different, right? So, everybody likes to point to the end of games and this and this and that. There's 4 or 5 games that win or lose a game almost every single week, right? Blowouts or not. So 4 or 5 plays there that Colorado didn't execute on. And the 4 that I found with Caden Salter, that would have changed the outlook of the game. So I think you make him into a thrower first, and you can shut down the rush game. Great. But again, I do expect Colorado now read all the scrutiny, everything Pat Shermer's going through, Prime jumping on everybody, including the staff. You're probably going to see Colorado. You'll probably see Michael Welch with 20-25 carries this weekend. Again, that is their lead. They were missing their second running back in Dallin Hayden. And then again, to just Amari Miller, he did have a hamstring injury. Like I said, we would jump into. I don't know what his status is for Saturday as well. That was the receiver. But again, make him throw first. You stop the run game, Colorado. What it looked like this past week so far, what we have is that's how you're gonna get to them.
Well, let's get over into the Colorado defense as well now. And I know it's a group has a lot of new pieces as well as a few returning players. And thinking first, let's talk about the defensive structure. What base coverage do the Buffaloes run on the defensive side of the ball?
So you'll see the 4-2-5, and Colorado runs very, very heavy cover one, man to man. So they've done this since last year. It cost them cost them a game against Kansas State when I was there. Sometimes they get very, very stubborn. Last year, midseason, when they went to Lubbock to play Texas Tech, Texas Tech just started running crossers. And it's hard to run all the way across the field, trying to miss receivers, everybody running into each other. They get pretty stubborn and like to run straight man. Now they do have the horses. They have one of the best nickel cornerbacks in the country. You'll see him. He wore 24 last year. He's 4 this year. Preston Hodge, he actually got an extra year of eligibility due to the Diego
Pavia, yeah.
There you go. He got an extra year with that. But he's one of the best, if not the best, nickel corner in the country. So he's very good. You have DJ McKinney, who number 8, outside corner. You'll see him. He is projected as a top 3 cornerback in this, in this next year is in April's draft. Very good players. You'll see the defensive lines. So their snap count looked a little, they probably played about 30 snaps each, which is great. They're a lot bigger up front. They have a really good pass rusher from Cherry Creek High School here in the Denver area. That is one of the powerhouses in the state of Colorado. He's number 53. You'll see him get after it. And then 2 new linebackers in Reggie Hughes, number 50, and number 30, Martavius French. French had a really, really big game. He's a transfer from University of Texas, San Antonio. 2 fumble recoveries. And was just flying all over the place. He looked good on Friday. It's just that the other outside corner, right? That they were, Tayon Parks came in, RJ Johnson came in. It was kind of like a little bit of a revolving door out there. Tiresias Davis came in. So that's kind of what you'll see. The safeties. I'm not sure. They started Ben Fennis this past week. It should be Tawfiq Bayard and Carter Stoutmeyer, but Carter Stoutmeyer is a pretty solid player at the other safety, but you'll see a lot of 4-2-5 and a lot of cover 1.
It's funny you said Tawfiq Bayard, because that's following Delaware recruiting in the past. That's a player that Delaware did offer when he was in high school at DeMatha Catholic, local here to Delaware, and he ended up going to South Florida and now eventually making his way out to Colorado. So when I was looking through the defensive roster, I saw that name and I was like, yep, that's a unique name. So I was like, that's a name I won't forget. So I'm always curious to see guys that that didn't end up Blue Hens, seeing where they're at in their time. And you talked about DJ McKinney. You got an interception to start the season. How crucial is he to the success for the Buffaloes?
I think too. So what you'll see with him is he follows last week Eric Rivers is transferred that Georgia Tech got their best receiver. He shadowed him all game, and it was just like, that's your guy, go cover him. And that's what they used to do with Travis Hunter. It was Travis is like, this is my guy. Travis, this is your guy. Everybody else kind of like, you go take care of the rest. Travis got their best receiver, and that's what they did with DJ McKinney, and he did pretty good last week. So to watch him play, he's long, lengthy, tall. I think just based off of that, you do have to have that shutdown corner when you run man to man. Tons of it, right? Bump and run, cover 1. You do need that one guy that can shut down the field. So he did a great job this past week, regardless, what everybody says, this or that. But he had a pretty good week last week.
Looking at some of the defensive linemen, I saw Anquin Barnes Jr., Keaton Wade, Arden Walker. Those are some of the guys that started. Of course, it's a group that rotates so much. But what are some of the bigger names there that will really be out there on key plays, key third down moments?
So they have a transfer last year or this past winter, Jaheim Otis from Alabama, 6'5", like 325, 335, just a massive human being. He was a 4-star recruit coming out. I think even some I want to say some had him as a 5-star, but it was a 4-star. He, when Nick Saban left, Kalen DeBoer came in. He didn't, really vibe with the new staff. Ends up here at Colorado with Warren Sapp and DeMonte Pecco, 2 former NFL players. And he's out here. He had a just, we were expecting huge things out of him, no pun intended. But he had a rough go of it during training camp or summer camp, whatever we want to call it. And he didn't start. He didn't get a lot of burn this past weekend, but the snaps he was in, man, he looked dominating. And again, it's just kind of, and I think what Colorado staff is doing is, and I understand it, but trying to prove a point a little bit, if that makes sense. Like, hey, you're not going to work hard in practice. You're not going to do the things that we want you to do, just really get after it in practice. You're not going to play a lot. And again, part of me is kind of like, this is not Georgia. we're not one of those. So my hope is that they play him more. And again, right. And again, I get that you got to work hard for what you get, those kind of things. But he had a lot of the limited snaps he had. Gosh, he was dominating. Another guy, 88, you can't miss him, Amari McNeil. He's a very good player. But I think the luxury that Colorado has this year versus others is they are very deep. And again, Haynes King that's a whole different dude right there, right? So my goodness, he could do anything he wanted or run anywhere he wanted. Hopefully Colorado learns from that. Right, we say that probably after every quarterback that can run these past couple of years, but my hope is that those two can really, really play. Hope is to see more Jaheim Otis out there, number 96, moving forward in the season.
And you've talked a lot about maybe some vulnerabilities in the Colorado defense. You talked about maybe not being able to stop the quarterback when he steps out of the pocket. You talked about maybe sometimes falling a little too much in love with cover one and maybe being picked apart. Is there anything else we need to know from us over on the East Coast? As they're flying out to Denver this weekend for the game, what else should they know about the Colorado defense?
Linebacking core. So they are, as much as I love Martavius France and Reggie Hughes, they struggled at times with the power for speed, and missed a couple plays here and there that, when you go fill a hole, that play has to be made. Missed a couple sacks. You have to make that play there or out, they're in the secondary and off, right? Because you did see the quarterback, the defensive linemen, they would fill the holes, they would eat up some blocks, and the linebackers were not getting there, or getting caught in the wash, whatever it may be. They just weren't getting there. So that, I would say, that's the weakness. They did, the pass rush was really good this weekend as well. So, if Delaware, like I said, so the quick hitting game that they run, absolutely, like that's the route that Delaware should go. And again, so match up well there. But I think that's the weakness. It just the linebacking core, and it's been a weakness here. They've had to replace it almost every single year so far. That 3 years, 3 different starters, with the 4-2-5, it's been 6 different starters now every year. So wow. That is a weakness of Colorado's right now, and in trying to find that outside corner, the other outside corner opposite DJ McKinney. That was a struggle this past weekend. So I think that would be their weakness. If Delaware can get that RPO game going and get their run game going, Colorado struggles, and it's misdirection more than anything is where they'll struggle.
Well, thank you so much. I've learned a lot just talking with you here, and I'm sure Blue Hen fans are gonna as well take a lot away from learning about not just the defense but the offense. So thanks for all the insight you gave on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it too. And so let's just jump into this, Bryce. We got final game predictions. How do you see this thing going? Do you have a final score? Where you at? Again, lines at 23.5 is what it is. That you're right. Like, I don't know how they come up with those, but that's where the line is. What do you see?
Yeah, the lines are always interesting to start the year, and I try to make my own predictions before they come out, and it really is sitting right for my expectations for this game. I think that it makes a lot of sense. You have Delaware's had a full fall camp of rallying behind Zach Marker, leading the way under center, and Nick Minicucci coming in the game did look great over time, but now you're moving into an environment like you are at Folsom Field in Boulder. It's going to be a really tough opportunity, and it's one of the 2 Power 4 programs they play against this year. They play against Wake Forest in November, and I'd say it's like a big litmus test heading into the rest of the season. They play Connecticut the following Saturday after that, a really good G6 program, before they get into conference play, heading down to Florida International for their first one. So I think it's about finding I think it's really just breaking it down to just, winning moments. Treat every play like it's 0-0. I think I haven't really thought of a final score yet. Before we started this, we talked about maybe some predictions. So I've come to one in mind. I'm gonna go with 38-20. That maybe Delaware gets some confidence and finishes out on the right note on offense. But I wouldn't be shocked to see them start slow with a loud crowd at Folsom. And I think Colorado's offense is gonna have an opportunity to really set their own stage after not having it the way they wanted week one. So I'm going to go with 38-20, and I'm really just rooting for some of those players to, have some shining moments and to really build as a unit on both sides heading into the rest of the season.
Perfect. Yeah, we're close. I had 38-17. So it was between that and 41-20. I just don't know if Colorado's ready to put 40 up again. I could be way wrong and they could put a whatever it is, but just based off of last week, I have it I have 38-17. I think the Buffs defense is going to look better. Again, they're huge up front on both sides of the ball. That has been a emphasis of Coach Prime. And again, and I guess, right, it comes to a point, Bryce, with just the talent level, right? And again, and it will happen in Delaware. They will get there. This is their first jump up. This is their first, and again, I know they played FBS teams before. I'd be worried if Rich Gannon or Joe Flacco was behind center. I would be like, oh man, this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen, right? But I do think 38-17. I think I don't think they win by that 23.5 point spread. I don't think Colorado covers that. I just think Colorado, one of the things that is really tough for Colorado, and we've seen it last year when they opened against North Dakota State, when you build in the transfer portal this much, it takes time. It takes time to gel, and we do see those things, right? Last year, the same kind of thing. Like they got, again, at the end of the day, it wasn't, North Dakota State's a well-coached team. You could tell which team was better, gelling together, has been together. Colorado just won that game because they just had better players, right? It just came down to that. Just the more athletes, right? Just that kind of thing. And what Colorado's team this year is, it's going to take some time. I do think, right, we're going to see a first quarter, maybe the first quarter and a half, where it's going to be like, kind of as Colorado fans, because it's going to take time. And again, I don't know who's starting, but I think if you do see Julian, he's a true freshman coming in though still. And again, this is, it's not high school football, right? So we will see a couple moments with him, and again, if my prediction does come true here, that he will have a couple moments there as a true freshman. So but if they don't, they go with Caden Salter, develop a whole new playbook and call things that actually Caden Salter is good at. I think that you'll see it might get ugly. And again, I'm not sure what Colorado's going to look like now. That play calling last week was very tough to see. So that is mine, 38-17. I don't want to go out and say some crazy things. So I think 38-17 is a good score. And I've seen some people like, they're going to hang 75s. Like, they're not hanging 75 up. It's like, be real here. So,
well, I will say, when you talked about, a team really building in the transfer portal, the Blue Hens roster has, I would say, if you think about the offensive side of the ball, I think they only had one starter on Thursday night that was not in the program a year before. And on defense as well, only one person, being Noah Matthews from Kentucky, as I said. And I think the offensive side of the ball was Noah Roshak from Syracuse as a redshirt freshman at right tackle. Delaware starting center, captain on team, Steven Domboski, was out week one. So if he's back week two, I'm pretty sure who filled in at center, Fenton Brose, shuffles to a guard spot. And then I think that pushes Roshak out of the lineup, which would be zero new people to the program starting. So I think, like you said, I think Delaware's kind of approach should be attack it early. I think there's going to be an obvious, talent difference on the field, but, sometimes it just comes down to, who knows their team and their playbooks better. So I think it's all, but the Blue Hens need to attack early to really set the tone. Maybe they shake up the stadium a little bit. But I think attacking early is going to be a key moment before, you don't want to finish the first quarter and already see yourself down by, like 2 to 3 scores. Because then, if you can keep yourself hanging a little bit, at least maybe, with some fighting hope heading into the second half, then I think that's a win for the Blue Hens.
No, absolutely. They got to get that crowd. Boulder is now, I always say, and again, my followers on here are gonna just be like, dude, you constantly say it. Colorado with Deion Sanders now is now right. The atmosphere, the loud stadium, everything. I would say, welcome to Power Four football, Colorado. About time.
Yeah.
Welcome to college football. Because again, you go to anywhere else, USC, the Southern schools. This is what it's like every Sunday, right? Good or bad. So we'll see. And again, if they can quiet Colorado early, that is a big difference. I know. So one of the things that we talked about last week was the altitude. So Bryce, you were here last weekend. Did you notice anything with the altitude?
Yeah, for sure. And I can tell you the program definitely has thought about it as well. I know their athletic performance, nutrition departments, they've had this in sight, really, building up altitude practice for it. As much as you can prepare, nothing's like in the moment. I can tell you though, when I was talking about, we talked to the positional groups, we talked to the special teams group, and I asked both starting kicker Nate Reed and starting punter Brendan Locke, what game are they excited for most this year? They can't wait to kick in that altitude. They want to see that ball fly. So I know from their perspective, they're super excited for this moment. I will think maybe you'll see, some of those positional groups that are running so much in the game. I wouldn't be shocked if you see them affected. So that's something you don't really think about, but is definitely a factor in the mile high out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in Boulder, that you were a little bit higher. So
yeah,
just so you know, and that ball flies though. That ball takes off. Whether people are like, no, it's not a thing. It's a thing. So even you'll see the Broncos play somebody, and you'll get a quarterback throw it and just overshoots his receiver a couple times, and it's like, well, what? It's like, dude, it's the altitude, So yeah, absolutely. It is interesting to see. Does Delaware, and again, something that we're following this year is Georgia Tech came in the the day before the game. Do we know when Delaware plans to come out?
That's a good question. Part of me thinks that they're going to be coming out on Thursday, but I have no confirmation on that. I think it's just my guess. I know a lot of fans are going out there Thursday that are around the team, and I think usually they try to line those up, especially with fans that have family in the team. So I wouldn't be shocked if Thursday, but I'd have to confirm on that. But I think an extra day can't hurt.
Yeah, so it just depends on however you look at it. I know. So the Raiders come out here to play the Broncos. They tried to get out here and get out. So get out here late. So they'll play Sunday. They'll get out here Saturday. So what they say, I'm not a Dr. Bryce. I'm not no way at all. But I'm just always curious. They will get here Saturday night, play the game, and then get out. They said because if you linger around in the altitude, it takes about a week or so to acclimate. And then about day 2 or 3 is when you start to feel the altitude sickness. So
interesting.
I don't know if that's true or not. Just some things that the Raider organization, even I know some teams when they used to play those NFL games in Mexico City, they would do the same thing because it's up so high. So again, just my question on that was.
Yeah, well, I'm going to follow up with you on that because I'm definitely going to ask that question. Try to get it out to you before the game so you can update your listeners on that end. So let me check in on that because now I'm curious as well. It's something I didn't really think about.
No, it really isn't, and it's just something that is a thing. So I don't know. And then I know I took a ton of your time. We had an hour scheduled. I do have you got to explain the Michigan Delaware thing for us if you can.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, it started with Michigan. I know another one as well was Princeton started with those winged helmets. And back in the day, there's a player named David Nelson. He played for Michigan as a running back, and he eventually coached. He was head coach at Maine after his playing career, and then he was eventually hired by Delaware to be the head football coach and athletic director. And with that history that he had with Michigan, and he played football for Fritz Chrysler, and that's who started it from the Princeton, Michigan days. He started the winged helmet in his own style when he came over in 1951 that he was hired, and it's stuck ever since, and they'll never change it. I know a lot of days, especially now, a lot of organizations they sign. I'm wearing Under Armour right now, but now Delaware is Adidas. I know a lot of these brands might want to build multiple jerseys, but there will not be a second helmet for Delaware. They'll always be wearing those blue and gold winged helmets, and it's one of the best looking ones in football. But it really helped because they had the winged helmet, and then back in the day when Nelson and eventually Tubby Raymond, the most well-known and successful coach in Delaware's history, ran a wing tee offense. So it was just love for the Blue Hens. Everything fits so well. So yeah, I love them so much. It's definitely something that caught my eye early when I was in high school, before even being a Delaware football fan myself. So they definitely stand out, and they're fun to see on the field. So I'm excited you'll get to see that in person as well on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. So I'm not even gonna lie. We kind of sit on that side of the field anyway. The student section sits behind the Colorado bench. So we're, my wife and I, we're a little too old for that now, especially with, we have 3 boys. So I don't know how well that would go. I don't want to relive my glory days. So but yeah, no, I'm gonna look at it. I am very invested. I don't know why. I just think they're such cool helmets. So and then just lastly, real quick, Bryce, before we let you go here, is there anything that you are working on that we should be on the lookout for? Anything that we need to know about Delaware this year that you would like to share and reach as many people as possible?
Yeah, we covered a lot on Delaware tonight, but if you're curious to know more, if you want to, we talked so much about both programs tonight, but if you want to get more of a recap on how Delaware looked in week 1, or we'll talk more. I'll be interviewing a member with the program that really stood out, Khalil Ali, with an interception to a pick 6 in his first career game for Delaware. He transferred from Boston College. If you want to, get some more flavor from what we do over at Feathers and Field Goals, you definitely can check us out on X, Twitter, whatever it's called nowadays. You can get us at Feathers FGS Pod, and then you can find. I'll be coming out with an article tomorrow about all of the snap counts and a lot of more analytical approach to how week 1 went. Like you were talking about PFF earlier and their grades. I love using tools like that, and so I'll be releasing an article as well. So if you're a diehard Colorado fan and want to fuel up all of your Delaware take before you forget about them and get ready for week 3, you definitely find us on Feathers and Field Goals.
Perfect, Bryce. Appreciate you again. Thank you for coming on. And again, moving forward in the future, you ever need anything, reach out. Please do not hesitate. So this is my conversation with Bryce. And again, thank you for joining us, Bryce.
Manny, thanks so much for the invite. This has been a blast. And my other 2 co-hosts, they're going to be out there in Boulder. They're flying out Thursday or Friday, so I'll definitely have to connect you with them as well. Yeah. And this is the great part about the game. You get to meet so many different people in different places, and it'll be awesome. So I know we have a lot of fans coming out to the West, and super excited to hear about their experiences.
Oh no, we're thrilled to have them, and we'll connect right after we get off here. So that way we can talk a little bit with the rest of the team. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll talk to you guys. And again, thanks for tuning in. All right, there was our conversation with Bryce. Again, Bryce, if you're on here, caught some of this, man, appreciate you a ton. You have no idea how much that meant to me. Just an awesome person. So can't speak highly enough of what Bryce taking some time to talk with us here at Colorado. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. What I do want to do though is see if there's any questions or any. Oh yeah, there we go, Bryce. Awesome, yeah. Oh yeah, that was so much fun. And then the rest of the team that's coming out this weekend, that Bryce's team. Just let us know. We are more than happy to meet up at the game or whenever, or even if you guys want to shoot me a text and let me know what food recommendations or whatever it may be. Just reach out to us. Absolutely appreciate you though, Bryce. That was a ton of fun. So thank you. Now, what I want to do is just dive in just to some questions if anybody has any. Just kind of get a little conversation going, get you guys ready. Maybe even a little feedback if this is something you liked. I know next week we have Parker Ainsworth from Locked On Houston, the University of Houston, that is going to be coming on. I think we're going to have to pre-record that show as well, but just for Colorado to get a deep dive into the University of Houston football. So again, that was just tons of fun. And again, something that hopefully you like. Is just it gives us a better understanding of the team that we get to play next. And again, one of the, like I think Bryce said at the end there, is one of the best parts, coolest parts of the job so far that I've found is getting to meet all these new different people, getting to interact with different people. But it has been tons of fun. So if there's any questions, shoot them on here. Again, I was still looking at that Alexander Ward. I believe that's who it is. Really excited. Hopefully the visit goes well this weekend. It is, again, 4-star athlete, one that I'm excited for. Hopefully that's one that the Colorado can land. So let's see here. Let me get this up as well. But yeah, let me know your guys' final predictions, your final scores that you have to the game this weekend. Again, is this one of those get right games for Colorado? Is this one of those figure some things out as we go? Just kind of curious of what the feel is for everybody else around the Colorado game, and those of you that are Delaware fans, just kind of curious to see if we missed anything. So drop some comments here, and let's get going and see what questions we have, if any. Another thing, 1:30 kickoff. I think the weather, I saw it's supposed to be clear. Hopefully, and again, the weather in Colorado can switch quickly on us. So we do have one. Let's see. Buffs by 2 scores. Okay. So that would be, I think we would get a ton of Colorado fans upset if they only won by 2 scores. Again, I think even if you get a 38-17 score game, we'll probably have some Buff fans that are not happy about the outcome of that as well. But I think I do think Colorado, I like the 38-17. And again, I think it just depends mostly on what this looks like as far as the offense, right? Is the play calling going to be catered to toward Caden Salter this weekend? This is a perfect one. Does Juju throw or run for his first college score? He throws one. And I'm going to say, man, he's going to throw one. Who do we want to throw to? Oh, to who? Okay, so all right. So Julian throws his first touchdown pass of his college career to, I'm gonna go with Joseph Williams. So I think Joseph Williams catches one from Julian Lewis this weekend. I don't know how you guys feel. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is the Julian? Who would you think he throws his first touchdown pass to, or does he run one in for his first college score? Great question, Chad. We'll let's see. Juju to JoJo, love it. Yep, that's one of our favorite things. Yeah, Juju to JoJo. Hopefully, in a couple, maybe by the end of this season, but if not by the end of the start of next year, we can make a shirt. Juju to JoJo. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So, but yeah, I feel like Colorado, again, if they do what they need to, they should take care of business. But again, it's I know that we don't score off of style points this weekend, but if we go off of style points, right, I don't know if the CU fans are going to be really excited about it. Again, this is almost a completely new team built through the transfer portal, as well as new starters, right, new faces this year. It is hard. It is very hard to build that chemistry this quickly. Again, like we talked about on the show on Monday, was one of the things that I would like to see them do is schedule a cupcake week 1 to just try to get things right, get things moving again. And it's kind of like a preseason game when you get a Haynes King that shows up. One of the best players in all of college football. This is just, you have to do something, right? You have to get these players ready. So, and again, Colorado did not look ready, and to an extent, right? Well, I guess, Georgia Tech didn't look very good either. Those first couple drives, they lost 3 total fumbles all last year. They lost 2 in the first 2 drives. So again, it is sloppy that first week, right? So, and again, even watching Texas and Ohio State, that was not a fun game to watch. Those defenses dominated. So, but yeah, I think, let's see. Tomorrow we have Friday. We're gonna do our keys to the game, talk about some more recruiting, those types of things. But again, as always, I do appreciate each and every single one of you for joining us. Make sure that you guys follow me on X. Those of you that are on X watching it, please hit that follow button at Manny_303. Instagram 303_Manny. Again, the buff line is always open. Please, send a text. You can even make a call. I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes that the buff line records for, but 970-614-5771. Follow us on all the major platforms where you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon. And again, if you can make any contributions to the show, be much appreciated. Again, the Venmo at the bottom is at Manny S2S. That would be much appreciated. But as always, we really do appreciate each and every one of you being here with us. Again, we have no show without you all, and hope to see some new faces here as the show grows. And let me know too in the comments. Text tweet at me, text the buff line, and let me know how you feel about having just another, someone else that covers the opposing team for the week. If you enjoy that. I will tell you this, it is a ton of fun. Again, shout out to Bryce, Feathers and Field Goals. Shout out to that whole team there. Just fantastic people. And that was just a blast. Something we'll have to continue doing here during the game week, during the season. So as always, appreciate you guys. And, as we do at the end of every show, just like Travis, Heisman winner, Travis Hunter, go Buffs, baby. All right, we'll catch you guys Friday. Have a good evening. Thanks again.